Hey everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be all about my best fall recommendations. I haven't done a video like this in a while. I'll link down below the other ones I have done. I don't want to repeat the same books. So these are the best books that I have read in the last year that I think would be perfect to read at this time of the year. I'm a big fan of the fall reads, specifically mystery, horror, thriller, dark academia. That's kind of the vibes that we're going for today. So top 5, but really it's 6. So let's get to it. A few of these I've actually just finished and I'm obsessed with them. The first one being Wrong Place, Wrong Time, which I, to be completely honest, did not think I was going to love this because I've been burned a few times about the Reese Witherspoon book club. But no, this was fantastic. I think that I've noticed that murder mysteries do so much better. They work just so much better for me whenever there's a sci-fi twist to it. And it's the case with this one. So you have this woman, she has a family, a husband, a son, and on his 18th birthday, as he's walking back home, she sees him, and she sees him actually murder a man. Why? She has absolutely no idea, because the son is like a really good kid, good grades, he's super nice, he's polite, he's nerdy, like he's not hanging out with the wrong kind of people, you know? You shouldn't be someone that murders someone. It doesn't make sense. And when she goes to bed, she wakes up and she is going back in time. So it's like kind of time loop, but I don't know. It's not like reliving the same day over and over again, which is what I thought it was at first. It's not a spoiler for me to mention that it's not that, because I've had a few comments. Don't worry, it's not a spoiler. She basically is like trying to figure out how they got into that situation. So think like butterfly effect. And I just could not put it down. I really enjoyed myself. The main character wasn't necessarily the most likable, but I found overall the story super engaging and I laughed a couple times, and I would say that this is the perfect book club book. You need to read this in the book club, or like just recommend it to friends and family because you're gonna have so much fun reading this. I really wanted to figure out what was going to happen, but I was just like living in the moment. I feel like time loops or anything that is time related, stories are just really hard to end. Because like, how do you explain it kind of thing? I think the author did a fairly good job with it. The ending is not weak, but it's the weakest part of the story, but I absolutely recommend you pick this up. I gave it 4.5 stars, and I tend to be quite picky. I think if you've seen my videos, I tend to be picky, but this was really great. You will see me talk about this quite a bit. I've already been doing it, and I will not stop talking about it because this is absolutely worth reading. So definitely check it out if you're looking for a book to read during the weekend, because you're going to read this in a weekend. Crack a window, grab some tea, a blanket, and this is it. You'll be entertained because so good. The second one, I do own the book. I don't know where it is because I'm currently renovating, but Into the Drowning Deep by Mary Grant. This was also really good. I only knew that it was about killer mermaids. That's all I knew. Frankly, that's all I needed to know. But I had read a couple of other books by the author. She also writes under Shannon McGuire, which you might know her more with that name. With that name, she writes mostly like, not necessarily wholesome, but you know, more fantasy stories. And with that name, she tends to write more like sci-fi horror books. I had given up on her a little bit with the Wayward Children series, but this is a game changer. If you're looking for something very different, I recommend it. You have the story that sounds a bit silly at first because you're following this entertainment company that is filming mockumentaries. So think like Loch Ness Monster, people trying to see if they can find anything and they just don't, so they make like a mockumentary. But they try to do that with mermaids, and turns out that they exist and they're hungry. So it happened, big disaster 7 years ago, but now the company wants to do it again. They're prepared this time with guns and people with guns, and they're still sending in a team of scientists to try and get some data because they want to prove to everyone that it was real, because obviously nobody thought that was real. Just the clips that people saw on the internet, everyone thought it was like CGI, is that the word? Anyway, fake. So they sent it to the team, and it turns out the mermaids are still hungry. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, it's obviously awful. I felt really uncomfortable reading it so many times, and I really enjoyed the characters. Well, some of them are really awful, but you like hating them, and some of them are just very likable and entertaining. So I, again, could not put this down. I would highly recommend it. I'm not a big horror reader, but this is definitely an all-time favorite for me. I also wanted to give a shout out to Dead Silence because sci-fi horror, is just a really good combo in my opinion. I feel like just space in general is scary. So you have a team that has been doing their mission at the edge of where humanity is in space, and they're set to come back, but on that day, they notice this big spaceship and decide to go and see what's going on. And they find a spaceship that disappeared a year prior that contained a bunch of like rich and famous people. And the ship was supposed to like travel for a year, and it was again full of people, and they just disappeared, never to be heard again. So they decide to explore because if they find something, they'll be rich. But when they get inside, things are very creepy. So again, sci-fi, space, and like horror, just perfect. I have an issue with horror because often they have open endings. And I don't even really care often about what the ending is going to be. Just give me one. If it's an open ending, I will resent you. I don't care if it's aliens, a disease, whatever. Just give me, like ghosts, just give me an answer. The author does give you something. I'm not going to say anything, but she gives you a satisfying ending. I was overall very happy with it. My only complaint is the romance. I think it was completely unnecessary. You just didn't need it. It didn't need to be there, like at all. So yes, if you're looking for a book to make you feel very uncomfortable, which I think is perfect for the fall, horror sci-fi, do recommend Dead Silence. For fall, I also really love reading Dark Academia because back to school, you know, fall, it works so well together. So Babel, it just came out. I feel like it has been dividing people, but the first 300 pages are so heavy on the whole Dark Academia vibes that it needs to be mentioned. So you follow a main character who is from China, and his whole family dies, and he's brought to London, where he will be thought, but really forced, to learn a bunch of languages, Greek, Latin, and then he will get a chance to go to Oxford, where we will be studying in the Babel Tower. And in that world, magic is linked to languages. That's why he's being taught languages. But what's important is that you have to intimately know the language. So in his case, Mandarin, that's the difference with anyone that lives in the UK. That's why he was brought up to go there. He's useful to be able to use the magic. So like I said, I really enjoyed the first 300 pages. If you like learning, if you like languages, I feel like this was just my jam. I absolutely loved the first 300 pages. You're learning as the character is learning also a bit. That part was very entertaining. I feel like it's the last 100 pages that will divide people quite a bit because the author, even though in the beginning she still was heavy-handed, towards the end, it's very in your face, the messages of the book, colonialism mainly. And it's similar to The Poppy War, which was still a theme of the series. But in this case, I feel like it just lacked subtlety. I feel like she didn't need to rub it in her face constantly that it was the message. And some of it could be explained with the fact that the main character is very sheltered, naive. Same thing with some of the other characters not being super well developed. I feel like it would have brought so much more to story. Just a bit more subtlety, a bit more of the side characters, especially since you're following them for years as they're studying. Like you would think that you would get to know them more than you do in the book. But I still really enjoyed it. It was a 4 stars for me, and I think a lot of people will really love this. So I wanted to mention it because it's perfect for fall, and like just look at the cover. It screams fall to me. I also wanted to give a shout out to Vita Nostra, which one of the weirdest books I've ever read, which I think also works for fall, but it's also Dark Academia. So it's like perfect balance. It is such a difficult book to describe, but I will attempt to. You follow a main character who, she lives with her mom. They're very, very close. It's just them. They're on a trip, and this weird man is following her, and he's essentially forcing her to do really weird stuff. I'm not going to go into much details because you want to experience it yourself, and you have no idea why, but it's essentially like her admission to go to this magic school, kinda. She has no information, they're not telling her anything, but if she doesn't follow the rules, her mother, there's like it's never really mentioned, but it's kind of there that if she doesn't do it, her mother could die. So she's forced to study things because frankly, even though I finished the book, nothing was clear. Like they're just staring at a page and like nonsensical things are written. She has to like remember them even though it means nothing, and it's just weirder and weirder and weirder. Every time you're like, okay, I mean, things are gonna start making, no. But I still could not put it down. It's definitely super heavy, but so good, so good. If you like weird books, you need to read this. If you like magical school and like Dark Academia, you need to read this. It's incredibly unique. I had no idea how it was going to end. I've read the ending and I'm still not sure. It's not open, but like I had to Google it. So book 2 is coming out, is being translated, I should say, early next year, and I will be picking it up because I need to know, where is this going? I have no idea. It can be read as a standalone though, so if you just want to try it, feel free to do that. And then last but not least, I needed to mention Razorblade Tears, which I feel like I've been talking about it nonstop, but I will continue to do so because it is by far one of the best books that I've read this year. You have these two fathers who both had a rough past. They've been to prison years ago and they're trying to, you know, not go back. And both of their son, they were married together, but they were also murdered. And the police, you know, they've done their job, but they haven't found anything. And they decide to try and solve the murder themselves because they want, you know, revenge. They want the information. The thing is, neither of these fathers was close to their son because they were homophobic. So they are starting with like no information. And one of them is white, one of them is black. It's important because the author uses all of this homophobia, racism to talk about these topics. And I feel like he handled it so well. And even though the characters are like all morally gray, you kind of get really invested emotionally in them, like so much more than I expected. I feel like a lot of the mystery thrillers, whenever they're more like family drama, which this one is kind of that, I don't get invested and I just don't care about the story because it's character driven. This one is action driven, but the characters are very important. And I think this would make an excellent movie, like an action movie. And I don't watch a lot of like pew pew movie, but this one I would. This one I would because it was so good. I wanted them to succeed so badly and they get in horrible situation constantly and I just kept rooting for them. So if you're looking for something a bit different to read this fall, read it. Otherwise I will continue talking about it in every video. So these are the best books that I've read in the mystery thriller horror categories in the last year, which I feel like it's not that many, but I feel like in the last couple of years I've read so many bad ones that I'm happy to have 6 to talk about because that is more than I've had in a while. But I'm currently doing a challenge, read it or unhaul it, which I have been going through a lot of books that are on my shelves unread and I'm trying to find favorites. Also just film a haul video, which you're going to see soon, which I got a couple. I'm optimistic that I'm going to find some more new favorites, so definitely subscribe so you don't miss that out. Thumbs up, and I will be putting on the screen, like I said, my wrap up of the month and my TBR because you want to see what's coming up, and I will see you in an upcoming video very soon. Bye.